What's going on, YouTube? So even though the GLC was just introduced as a nameplate 4 years ago, it has quickly risen to become the best-selling Mercedes and the best-selling product in its entire class. That's why we just had to head out to James Motor Company today to check out this extensively refreshed 2020 model and see what has made it such a success. Of course, if you're in the market for any new Mercedes, make sure you stop by their dealership or visit them via their website, which we provided a link to in the video description. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get into it. So starting things off with the exterior design. The best summary of the 2020 changes would be that Mercedes gave a big dose of GLE to the GLC. The entire front design has been reworked, with a new softer round grille on all models, but with bolder finishes. The standard GLC gets 2 bars through the middle. However, the big news this year is that the AMG line models, like this one, now come with the signature diamond grille for the first time. In addition to that, our model has the AMG Night package, which blacks out most of the center bar as well as the majority of the bright work elsewhere. Turning to the headlights, they have also undergone major changes this year, not just in the design, but in the fact that LED lights are now standard equipment on every GLC. Our specific lights have a slightly different look than the regular version since they are fully adaptive and auto-dimming. Heading to the side, this is one area left untouched this year. However, I'll still point out the black window trim and roof rails on the AMG Night model. And then around back, there have been some more changes. Chiefly among them are the full LED tail lights with a more pointed design like in the GLE. Down at the bottom, all models have dual exhaust outlets. However, the tips are fake this year. But overall, Mercedes has done an excellent job with this refresh. They took what was already handsome and added all the modern design touches that make it feel completely fresh. Now turning our attention to the wheels, there are a ton of options in typical Mercedes fashion. All of the previous 6 options have carried over this year, including these 20-inch multi-spoke AMG wheels that we have on this one. However, 2020 does also bring several new choices. Heading out to the mirrors, they are always heated, auto-dimming, and power folding. Plus you have standard blind spot monitoring in 2020. In addition to that BSM system, Mercedes does also throw in automatic forward emergency braking with pedestrian detection as standard equipment. And then choosing the driver's assistance package will give you active lane keeping assist, active steering assist, active BSM, as well as the semi-autonomous adaptive cruise control system called Active Distance Assist Distronic. But anyways, that's it for the significant exterior updates. So now let's see all the new tech that they've added inside the cabin. So walking up to the 2020 GLC, you'll immediately notice some changes straight off the bat, and that's going to be in the form of this new key fob. This is, of course, the latest Mercedes key fob with real metal trim along the sides. The keyless go sensors, those remain optional, but remote start is standard equipment via the Mercedes Me application, free for 3 years. Now since we do have the optional keyless go sensors, all we have to do is reach behind the handle and it will unlock. And when you do that, the mirrors will electrically fold out. Alright, so taking a first peek inside the cabin of the refreshed GLC, what you'll see right off the bat is that the main components of the design do stay the same this year. However, there's a lot of changes to the details. Now, in typical Mercedes-Benz fashion, they do allow for a lot of customizing of this cabin. So I'll run through some of the different material and color options. So what you'll start out with is the standard MB synthetic leather that will come in black or silk beige colors. However, then you can option on real leather, which is what we have here, and that comes in black, silk, or a new magma gray color. The next step up is Designo Napa leather that comes in black or white platinum. Now here on this model we have the AMG line. That comes with two new exclusive colors, cranberry red, or this model here, saddle brown. Now as far as your trim options, what you'll be looking at is open pore brown, ash, dark linden wood, burl walnut, or two new options, gray oak, and this open pore walnut wood trim. Now turning over here to your door trim, it is beautifully appointed. Of course, you got the same materials as the rest of the cabin, so we have real leather all through this armrest here, as well as the color contrast brown leather here, the brand new open pore walnut, and the stitched dashboard option as well across the top. As far as the seats, they are 14-way power adjusting with standard 3-person memory. We do also have standard 3-stage heating, though this particular model does not have the optional ventilation. Of course, as far as your windows, they are one-touch automatic for all four. So like I was saying, this particular model does have the real leather seating in the new saddle brown color for the AMG line. Also being the AMG line, we have the special sport seats, so you'll notice they have more aggressive bolsters here in a slightly different design. Now one other thing you might notice is that we actually have running boards. Of course, that's entirely unnecessary on a vehicle that's this low to the ground. So they're really just more of a styling accessory, but you can step on them if you want to. Makes getting in a little bit harder, actually. So the GLC was already one of the class leaders when it comes to material quality of the cabin, and that does continue this year as well. Now across the upper dash here you will find either a soft touch plastic, or on this particular model we have the optional tailored dashboard option. So this is a leatherette across the top portion as well as on the door trims like I already mentioned. And then as far as down below, you will notice that you have soft touch plastic even way down in the extreme lower areas. We also have some real aluminum that runs through here. And then of course, you've got this really lovely center console covered completely in the brand new open pore walnut trim. And then we do also have leather running through here with a nice color contrast detail, and everything fits together extremely well. Now, you do of course have standard push button start, but you will notice this does have the new turbine design button. And then when you press it, you will see one of the biggest 2020 changes, and that's this brand new 10.25 inch display. It's now standard equipment across all the trims, and it is powered by the brand new and also standard MBUX infotainment system. But we'll dig into that a little later in the video. Now the other key part of the big tech upgrades for 2020 is this brand new 12.3 inch fully reconfigurable gauge cluster. This does come standard in the multimedia package, and it basically mirrors a lot very similar to what you find in like the GLE and the newest Mercedes models. So basically every part of this is reconfigurable. So what you're going to use is this also new touch capacitive buttons here on the steering wheel. So on this side here controls the gauges, where on this side controls the main display. So what you'll do is just kind of swipe between your sections. So you have this side and this side are both reconfigurable. So I'll just swipe through a few different options. You just go, as you can see, you can have your navigation pull up there and various other things. We can swipe over to the middle here, go through a ton of different things. We can also hit this home button, and this brings us up our middle options, so we can switch to different types of sections. For the sake of demonstration here, I'll show you what you can do with the designs. So as you can see, we actually have 3 different designs. So I'll click on Sport, and we go to this look. Then we can go to Progressive, and this really radically changes the design to something kind of more crazy. So as you can see, every part of this is fully reconfigurable. Definitely one of the neatest setups available in the business right now. Now coming back to the steering, of course it is electric power assisted, and like I already mentioned, we do have a brand new steering wheel design. It is straight off of the newest Mercedes models. On this AMG line model, it is flat bottomed as well, and we do have full aluminum trim all through here. Like I already said, we have new touch capacitive buttons, and then on this side we have our phone audio and voice command buttons. As far as behind the shifter, we do have aluminum paddle shifters. They are standard across every single model. We do also have rain sensing wipers. The steering wheel on this model is power adjusting. However, we do not have the optional heating, which is a standalone $250 option. Now, as far as the shifter itself, it is the same electronic shifter that you'll find in pretty much all Mercedes models. So for drive, you just press down. Like I already mentioned, you can shift with the standard paddle shifters as well. And then when we go into reverse, you'll find on this particular model we have the 360-degree camera system fire up. This is part of the parking assistance package, or else you will usually just get a standard backup camera. But as you can see, you have both your 360 and your traditional views. And then on this side here, you've got a list of different things you can switch between, so we can just select. So we have our back and corner view, we have our side view, we have a wide rear view. And then we can also press that to turn off that 360 section. So definitely a very good camera system overall. And then you just press the end of this stalk to shift back into park. And you do also have an automatic electronic parking brake, which will deploy when you press park. Now, one of the benefits that Mercedes has long been using the electronic shifter for is the fact that you have more storage when you stick it up there out of the way. So in the GLC, what you'll be looking at is a very nicely sized center console here. This is definitely a lot deeper and a lot larger than what you'll find in, say, the Audi Q5, for example. And it does have a nice felt lining as well. Also inside here, you'll find 2 USB Type-C charging ports. Moving up a little bit further here, we have another storage area. This is where you'll find your 2 cup holders and another storage area here. Now the bottom of this is also a wireless phone charger, and there is NFC pairing when you touch this spot right here. This is a standalone option, but if you don't have that option, you'll still have another USB Type-C port as well. Now back behind that, what you'll notice is the brand new touch controller here. This goes along with the brand new MBUX system as one of the control methods. And then next to it we have a lot of different buttons. This first button here is a toggle for our different drive modes. So you'll notice we have a ton of different ones here. So we have Off-Road, Off-Road Plus, Eco, Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, and then an individual mode where we can actually tailor all the different options and save them into our own profile. You can also turn on and off our parking sensors. This is where you'll toggle on and off manual shifting, turn on and off your auto start stop system. If for whatever reason you want to turn off the main display, you can press that button there, and we can also turn off the traction control and trigger the 360-degree camera system. Alright, and now that pretty much brings us to our audio system. What you'll find on this model is the optional Burmester sound system. It is 590 watts and 13 speakers. So we'll go ahead and take a sample of that. really don't know how the regular sound system sounds, but I can attest that this one here is excellent and probably worth the small price upgrade. Alright, so now we'll move on up the dashboard to our climate controls. So what you'll notice is we have a similar setup to last year, where you have standard 2-zone climate, optional 3-zone, which is what we have, and you have these nice toggles here to make the adjustments. When you make those adjustments, you will see it actually show up here in the main display. So we do have buttons for every function for the most part. However, a few things can be located when you press the menu button, and you can make those adjustments up here if you prefer to do that. But anyways, that pretty much brings us up here to the brand new MBUX system, which of course is one of the main highlights of this 2020 refresh. So let's go ahead and dig into that. Now I'll go ahead and start working our way through the features here. This is where you'll land. This is your home screen, so you basically have your applications right across the top here. And you can scroll through, of course, using your touch screen or by swiping here on the touchpad controller. Anyways, we'll jump into the navigation here. So as you can see, this is the newest Mercedes mapping technology. You do have pinch to zoom, of course, and you can do that on both the touchscreen and the trackpad. We can also change the orientation of the map from 2D to 3D. So we do have our smartphone applications. This is standard on all the models with MBUX. You have both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay systems. Now moving on up, you will find a standard auto dimming mirror with 3 Homelink universal remotes built into the bottom of it. Then we will also find a panoramic sunroof. It is actually 2 different panels, and the front portion does open up, of course. As you can see, it does open up probably a little bit more than a regular size moonroof. And speaking of that, a regular size moonroof is not available on any model, and this panoramic moonroof is a $1,500 option across the board. But overall, the cabin of this 2020 GLC is an excellent place to spend time. This, from the very beginning when it first debuted, has always had an absolutely beautiful and excellent cabin. And these tech upgrades and material upgrades simply add to that experience. I can definitely say this continues to be one of the best, if not the best, cabin in the class. Alright, so that does it for the front portion of the cabin. So now I hand it off to my brother Mason, who will check out the back areas.
Alrighty, so going around to the rear seat of the 2020 Mercedes GLC, you're going to find a good amount of space and a lot of luxury. So you will find 37 inches of rear legroom and 40 inches of rear headroom, which is very class competitive. It's on par with that of the BMW X3 and Audi Q5. Now if you want to compare it to the GLE for reference, it's about 3 inches smaller back here. Now turning over to the door trim, it is a beautiful design, and I really love the color contrast between the brown and the black. So we do have leather going through all of it, all through the armrest with color contrast stitching, some brown leather above that, and even leather up here on the upper portion. Now we will also find some beautiful wood trim, and you will also notice that we do have the standalone option heated rear seats, and down below that we do also have a little bit of door storage. Now turning over to the seat itself, it is a very nice design, and it is very comfortable and leather wrapped. Now in the center, Mercedes does offer a nice amount of standard equipment. So all of the models will have these rear air vents. However, not all of them will have the climate controls. So 3-zone climate is optional on the GLC, and obviously we have selected it here so we can adjust our temperature as well as our fan speeds right here. And down below that, we do also have a 115 volt household style outlet, as well as a 12 volt power outlet, which is a really nice touch. We do also have a fold down armrest, and it does have cup holders in the end. And we do also have a little bit of storage as well. Now up top, this particular model does have the panoramic moonroof, and I really like this feature. It actually is a very large moonroof, even though it is separated, and it does really help to make you feel a little bit less cramped back here. Now off to the side, we do have an assist grip, as well as some LED lights. And as far as the legroom is concerned, like I said, it is very class competitive. So behind rear seating position, I have about 6 to 7 inches of rear legroom, and my feet can easily slide up underneath the seats, so I'm very, very comfortable. Now heading around to the GLC's trunk, it is standard hands-free power, so all you have to do is wave your foot under the bumper to open it up. And once the trunk opens, you are going to find a good amount of space, although it is a little bit less than some of the rivals. You will find 19 cubic feet of space behind the second row seats, and if you fold them, you're going to get 57 cubic feet. Now like I mentioned, that is a little bit less than the Audi Q5 and BMW X3. However, Mercedes has finished it back here very nicely. You have a very premium carpeting, and down underneath of the floor, we do have a lot of storage. I don't know if the camera really shows this very well, but it is actually very deep, and there's a lot of storage down here. And Mercedes does also offer a optional spare tire as well this year. Now off to the side, we do have some cargo netting with some storage, and you will also notice the buttons to fold the second row. It's just this little switch, and it does fold the seats right down extremely easily. It's a very nice touch. A lot of the rivals don't make it quite that easy. Now in addition to that, we do also have a cargo cover. Now, talking about the passenger seat adjustments, it is standard 14-way power adjusting. However, the memory is optional with the leather seating. And in front of the passenger, we do have nice materials. And down below, we do have a good-sized glove box. It is nicely felt lined. And up top, we do have an LED light and mirror. And it does also detach, however it does not extend. But anyway guys, that sums up all of the rear seat areas of the GLC, so now let's go ahead and get on the road and see how it compares to its big rivals like the Audi Q5 and BMW X3.
Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the powertrains. Now this is the GLC 300. So what you'll be looking at for this model is the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's not exactly the same as last year. It's actually up 14 horsepower over last year. It is now shared with the GLE 350. And so that is now right in line with the competition as far as power is concerned. Now there will be a GLC 43 AMG version. That's not available right at this moment. But as far as that, I will go ahead and mention that briefly. That is a 3-liter twin-turbo V6, 385 horsepower and 384 pound-feet of torque, and that is also a bump of 23 horsepower over 2019. Now, as far as your transmission, you'll have a 9-speed automatic transmission with rear-wheel drive or 4MATIC all-wheel drive, as we have equipped in this one. And then, as far as your fuel economy, You'll be rated at 22 city, 29 highway, 24 combined with rear-wheel drive. Then when you go for the 4MATIC all-wheel drive system, it drops your city and highway numbers by 1. However, the combined number does stay the same by the EPA's calculation. Alright, but that's pretty much it for that. So let's go ahead and take it on the road and see how it performs. Alright, so first punching the 2020 GLC. Power definitely feels really good. I didn't personally drive the 2019 version, so I can't really comment on how much you're going to notice 14 extra horsepower this year. But this has always had a good amount of power, definitely healthy 0 to 60 numbers. They're around 6 seconds, maybe a little less than 6 seconds, basically the same as the 4-cylinder competition. You know, and that definitely for this type of vehicle feels plenty adequate. Now we do also have Mercedes auto start-stop system. So when this light turns green, we'll see how quickly it restarts and gets us back underway again. Alright, the restart there was really nice. Very smooth, very quiet and refined.
Yeah, definitely. Mercedes has one of the best auto start-stop systems. I know we said it in the all-new GLE review. I honestly hold that as the best auto start system in any vehicle, and this really isn't much worse than that.
Right, this is of course a traditional engine. That was the mild hybrid, so it was able to actually turn off even just coming to a stop. But as far as traditional auto start-stop systems go, this is as smooth as it gets.
And just cruising down the road here at 50 miles an hour, I can obviously tell that one of the things that this GLC is the best at is just being comfortable for everyone and your family members. You know, at 50, it's almost dead silent in the cabin, and it's just so smooth. I mean, I would expect no less for a Mercedes, but, you know, this is definitely at the top of its class when it comes to ride quality.
Right, and that's despite this is the AMG line. We have the bigger wheels. But yeah, still very comfortable. Of course, there's a lot of different drive modes. Right now, we're in comfort mode. We will try out some of the other drive modes as we go along. I'll just give it a click into sport mode here. Definitely a lot more aggressive on the throttle response, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely gets it up to speed quickly. You know, the transmission is just more willing to, you know, stop being optimized for fuel economy and get things moving as fast as possible.
You know, that really felt fast, especially for a crossover like that.
Right. And like most German vehicles, they usually, the 0 to 60 is actually faster than what is stated a lot of times, so I feel like that's the case here. You're definitely going to have no trouble at all just getting up to speed. That was 60 real fast there. Yeah, by the seat of my pants, this is every bit as fast as the Q5, which itself is you know, one of the fastest things. The Germans, generally speaking here, are quite a bit faster than the Japanese competition, which tends to be like 7 seconds or so, where this is under 6 seconds.
I think you're definitely going to notice that difference between this and like an NX, for example.
Right. So as you can see, the augmented reality navigation here, it overlays, as you can see, the street name and everything, so you have exactly what street you're on.
And it even, it's telling us to do a U-turn, it even like goes like in that direction and with the arrows.
So very, very neat system. And really, really handy as well. So it just activates a live camera feed. And then if you're searching for, like, say, one of these houses as well, it would start to line up the numbers. That way you can actually see which house that it is. Because a lot of times, you know, it's very unclear. They're like, you reached your destination, and sometimes you don't even know what side of the road it's on or anything. So definitely we saw that in action when we were driving the A-Class back in about February. So it's not just like another gizmo, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, it's something that has really legitimate uses.
Yeah, for sure. Turn right onto Kentucky for 18 West. Now turn right.
Now, in regards to the 9-speed automatic transmission, it definitely behaves very well. Fires off shifts very quickly. It feels just as fast as Audi's dual clutch transmission.
And when you're not driving it hard, it just kind of blends into the background, which is exactly what you want.
Most people are going to just be driving this casually. They're probably going to be in the comfort mode and stuff. But overall, the 2020 GLC actually drives a lot like the C-Class, and that's definitely a good thing. You know, driving along in this, I've really felt it. I feel that it feels, you know, pretty sedan-like. Actually, a lot of crossovers seem to compromise driving dynamics versus their sedan siblings. You know, and this actually feels very, very similar to the C-Class, and I don't feel like you're sacrificing much in terms of the way that it drives versus a sedan, and that's a really good compliment. Of course, this car, it really hits the important parts of what people look for in a luxury compact crossover. We have plenty of space, plenty of power. Of course, the cabin is very luxurious. The 2020 tech upgrades have really made it, you know, at the upper tier as far as technology goes. And then the driving dynamics here really strike a good balance between kind of being a little bit sporty, but also making sure comfort has the priority. So really, all in all, can't think of anything to complain about. It's just overall an excellent package.
Now, as far as how the pricing is concerned for the 2020 GLC, you will find very competitive pricing. So for the base rear-wheel drive model, that's going to come in at $42,500. And if you want the 4MATIC all-wheel drive system, like what we have, that's going to be $2,000 additional at $44,500. Now, even though this car does start at $44,500, there are quite a few options, and we do have literally almost every single one of them checked off on this particular model. So we have the Cardinal Red paint for $1,080, the Saddle Brown leather for $1,620. We have the MBUX dashboard and upper door trims for $350, passenger seat memory with thigh support for $350, the panoramic moonroof for $1,500, the off-road engineering package for $300, the 12.3-inch digital cluster for $750, 3-zone climate control for $760, the 20-inch AMG multi-spoke wheels for $750, the Burmester sound system for $850, the brushed aluminum running boards for $650, the heated rear seats for $580, wireless charging for $200, wheel locking bolts for $200, LED logo projectors for $275, the driver's assistance package for $1,700, the parking assistance package for $1,290, the exterior lighting package for $800, the multimedia package for $1,250, the night package for $400, the AMG line package for $1,600, the premium package for $1,250, and finally we have the destination charge of $995. So this particular model, as equipped, comes in at a whopping $63,950, which, like I mentioned, is literally almost every option checked off.
Right.
Most of the models that people will end up buying are in the mid-50s or a little bit over 50. This is just a kind of crazy one that has literally every option checked off. As you could tell, it took me like 15 minutes to read that off. So, but it is very competitive pricing with a lot of the German rivals that it competes with, like the Q5 and X3. Well guys, we've enjoyed watching the first in-depth look at the 2020 Mercedes-Benz GLC 300. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.